I'm David Hunt, and welcome to The Art Hunter. My guest today is a contemporary artist, started off as a graffiti, or would you say street artist, came to Australia to be naughty and paint on walls and trains and whatever, and fell in love with the place and is still here many years later. But before that, he's a London lad, and he's been involved in exhibitions in a lot of major cities around the world. And he's calling Melbourne home now, and he's just pulled off this extraordinary exhibition that we'll chat about in a little bit. I'm talking to Mysterious Al. Al, hello.
Hi mate, thanks for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure. So tell us, why did you come to Melbourne in the first place?
It's funny, Melbourne wasn't really on my radar until about 2008, and then I had a friend that I knew through street art in the UK that was living over here, and he said, you've got to come over, you know, this city's absolutely amazing for street art, you know, you can paint everywhere. So I did. I came over for a month for a holiday, and it was incredible. Like, the public's attitude to street art's amazing. You know, normal people like it, and, you know, paint was plentiful and beers were as well. So, you know, we just spent a long time painting, and then as I went back to the UK, I thought, you know, when you visit a city and you think, I could live there,
yeah.
You know, well, I thought I actually could, you know, like I can probably get the visas and I speak the language, etc. And so I did that, and a few years later I moved back with my partner. We were supposed to be here for a year. That was in 2011. Next minute, still here.
10 years.
10 years this year.
So where did the love of street art come from? You know, like, when did you first dabble? Was it London?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's an interesting one. Like, as a kid, growing up in London, graffiti's everywhere. And I was very into graffiti, but I never actually did it. Street artists, especially at, you know, the beginning of street art, we're talking like 2000, 2001, I was part of, like, I guess what is the first generation of street artists.
Okay.
And we didn't really know where we fitted. You know, we weren't painting letters, we weren't going out doing like hardcore illegal missions. So we certainly, you know...
Weren't the tagging just for the sake of tagging?
Well,
were you? Oh.
Well, this is the thing, like, you know, I hold graffiti artists in a great deal of respect.
Yeah.
You know, they're seriously disciplined, they're very hardcore, you know, so I definitely wouldn't call myself that. But we were like these kind of misfits that wanted to do work on the street, but it wasn't traditional graffiti.
Yep.
You know, so we were getting up, you know, but it was more with like stickers and posters, you know, drawing characters as opposed to writing our names. And it just kind of came from there. I caught the bug. And London, sort of circa 2002, 2003, it was amazing. It was electrifying. Like, street art was really new and exciting.
Yep.
You know, so we were out all the time around East London, doing bits and pieces. D-Face, Dave the Chimp, PMH and my crew. We had a crew called Finders Keepers Crew. And eventually we kind of became notorious for doing art exhibitions in unusual locations. And I'm still doing that now.
Yeah.
It started from necessity because, you know, we were young, galleries just weren't interested in showing us. It was that simple. So we were like, I don't know if I can swear, but we were like, okay, forget it. You know, we're going to do it on our own.
Yeah. But what about you as an artist? Where did that start, or was it on the street that you started as an artist?
I've always been an artist.
Okay.
You know, since I was a kid. I've been very lucky to have supportive parents, even when I was going through my street art, you know, beginnings of my street art phase, or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, I've always considered myself to be an artist. I was never really any good at anything else. I never really cared about anything else. I didn't care that I wasn't very good at anything else. You know, it's always been with me. It's always been something that I've enjoyed doing. And I've always known that no matter what else I'm doing in my life, I'll always be making art.
Yep.
And it's only been for the past sort of 3 years or so that I've been doing it full time and starting to make a living out of it.
Great.
And that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, the goal is, you know, I want to just do this every day.
Now, your art, it's a particular style. what is it? You know, like, is it masks? Am I seeing, you know, like ancient? I'm cheating here because I know.
Yeah.
So tell us, what is your art?
You're right. I do call the pieces that I do masks, and the reason I do that is because there's two reasons. The first is they were initially inspired by these very specific African tribal masks called bois masks.
Okay.
And these are like really, really crudely made. You know, they've got really simple shapes, like repetitive shapes, but they've got so much emotion and character in them. They're absolutely amazing. The second reason is that I call my paintings masks is because there's always something behind a mask. And I like to think that my work has kind of got different layers to it, different subtexts. And if you look just a little closer behind the kind of bright, colourful funness, there's something a little bit more melancholy or darker behind it. So I guess I was working as a commercial illustrator for many years.
Okay.
And the holy grail, I guess, of cartoon work or illustration is trying to get as much emotion into a face in the simplest amount of moves. The Japanese do it better than anyone else. You know, with manga, they'll just draw a line, you know, for the mouth, and it's perfect. You know, so I was always really into that and striving for that perfection within my own work. And then I saw these ancient masks, and they were so crudely made, but they look current. They look like they could be on SpongeBob, you know. And I just thought, this is amazing. You know, completely got inspired by that. I started doing away with outlines completely and just using collage because it's fast and quick. You know, and it was just a really, really simple way to kind of make sketches, I guess.
Okay, so what you're talking here is that you rip up bits of paper and then you lay it to create a mask to give you the inspiration of what you're going to paint. Is that what you?
That's absolutely right. I treat my collages like a sketchbook, and I don't create the masks. They create themselves.
Wow.
I literally tear the paper up and move it all around until a face presents itself. You know, and I could be working on dozens of these at the same time. When it starts to kind of take shape, I quickly take a photo of it with my phone so that I can remember what it looks like. And then I paint all the pieces because it's not coloured paper that I use. I can't get the colours that I want, so I have to paint the paper.
Okay.
And I do that second, so I make like a kind of, I call it a ghost version of the mask. It's all white. And then I'll just pick a dominant colour, paint that, and then pick some colours that work around that. And then that's it, you know. But it's a long process, you know, like I could have dozens of masks on the wall at once, and I'm constantly pulling bits down and like ripping their noses off and swapping them around, you know, right till the last minute they're moving.
Right, so there's almost like Mr. Potato Head on paper.
It's exactly that. It's happy accidents all the way through. You know, like I find that the magic happens small, you know, and so it's, you know, the way that my hand moves when I'm moving the paper around, like I might breathe a bit heavily and it flutters and it looks better, you know, and I just think, cool.
So when was that moment where you thought to yourself, I can make a living out of this, this is really going to happen? When was that moment? When did that happen? You said 3 years ago you became a full-time artist.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard one because I started to get, you know, some moderate success quite early on in my life or career or whatever you want to call it, because during, you know, the emergence of street art in the UK, you know, I did a lot of commercial jobs, you know, so, you know, every time a mobile phone company wanted to target an ad to kids, you know, I'd do the illustrations for it, and I worked with tons of different brands, you know, Carhartt, Levi's, all these guys.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot, and it fits perfectly, doesn't it? That streetwear.
You know, I've never had any problems doing commercial work as long as I stay in control of it.
Yep.
You know, I consider it selling out if you're selling your stuff and letting, you know, whatever. But I always keep it very close, you know, closely under control. And if brands want to help me do what I love, then why not?
Yeah.
You know. But then there was a kind of lull period for me for a long time because I always wanted to be a gallery artist. You know, I always wanted to be making paintings that would outlive me, you know, that would have some sort of importance, not just be a disposable T-shirt or advert, you know.
Or a badge.
Oh,
or a badge?
yeah, the badge is good. But I guess I couldn't translate what I was doing to the gallery environment. It just wasn't working, because I was doing, quite stylized cartoons, and it just didn't translate to canvas at all, and it just didn't feel like the sort of art that would belong in a place like that. So for a long time I was working day jobs and experimenting, and it's a frustrating time for an artist when you're really trying to get somewhere and it's just not connecting. And it was like that for me for years and years and years. And throughout this, I was doing work on the street and bits and pieces, collaborations on T-shirts or whatever, but nothing major. And it was about 5 years ago when I had an epiphany that I started on the kind of journey that I'm on now, with the style that I'm doing now.
Right. Okay. So it was the real turning point in your style.
Yeah, absolutely,
Right.
hugely.
What was it, Al? Was there one moment, or was it over like 6 months, a year, or something? Or all of a sudden you look down and go, "This is where I know this is going to work."
It was one moment.
Wow.
It was a flash.
Wow.
It was. I'll never forget it. It was at the Horniman Museum in London. My friend had moved to Forest Hill. She'd bought a flat there. I'd never even heard of the area. And I went to meet her, and I just popped in because I was waiting for her near the train station, and that's where I saw one of these West African masks, and I'll never forget the one that I saw. I've tried to find a picture of it since, and I can't find it. It was a lump of clay with 3 holes in it, like 2 eyes and a mouth, and it was amazing. It was perfect. Like it had character. It was incredible, and I just thought, that's absolutely amazing. That is as simplified as you can get, as crude as you can get. And, I felt I could learn a lot from that. And I think I made my first collage that week. And that's just been it.
And what about the colour? Where did that come? Because obviously the African masks are pretty earthy colours. You've gone in the total opposite direction. That's the beauty of your art, is how colourful it is. Well, why that strong, like very bright colours?
Well, I've always been really interested in colour, but when I was doing my kind of previous style of art, I wasn't really using colours very much at all. I wasn't using them properly. But I've always been into graffiti and cartoons and advertising. And all these colours, you're bombarded with it constantly. I'm into other art, like I love Kane Kaiser, I love Todd James, guys that are like amazing at colour, Paul Insect. So I'd always been thinking about colours, but I'd never really been using them because I was trapped within the style that I was in. And then when I saw these Bois masks, I just thought, I don't want to just be trying to replicate those. And I don't want to look like something that looks like an African mask. Like they've already done that beautifully. Like I can't get anywhere close to that. I need to bring my own style to that. I need to bring something fresh. And so that's why I use the contemporary colours that I do.
They're very contemporary, aren't they? Like almost childlike in a way. Would you say that or not?
Absolutely. Like I want there to be a real initial like naivety to my work. I like having that secondary layer to it, but just deeper. So you've got to just look for it to see it. But yeah, absolutely. Kids' toys have got great colour combinations. When my daughter was a baby, I'd be looking at like everything in my house had polka dots or farm animals on it. Do you know what I mean? So I'd be always looking at like her lunch bag and think, oh yeah, cool. So it's definitely somewhere where I get influence from.
Yeah.
I just bought every colour of spray paint that I could find, and I just picked one colour which is going to be the dominant colour, and then other colours to go around it.
Yeah.
And a palette just makes itself.
Yeah. Now, where you exhibit, as you said, you found it hard. Galleries weren't interested in you, and you remind me a little bit of a DJ, like an underground DJ, where you're breaking the rules. Your last exhibition, which we'll come to, you did in a warehouse, and we'll talk about it. But the one before that, you illegally were in a warehouse. And shop fronts that are not being used, and because to me that is edgy. That's cutting edge. It's where the whole dance music scene started from. Was warehouse parties, a legend, and out of England, and caught on here in Australia and Melbourne. I don't know if you were aware or not, but Melbourne was one of the biggest dance music cities in the world, and had more nightclubs per head of population than anywhere in the world at one stage.
Okay.
So why did you use all that? And you made the right choice by going into warehouses.
Well, it's funny you should mention the whole sort of rave thing, because I've always been interested in parallels and where different cultures live alongside each other, but are separate and don't into kind of cross in any way. And I always loved the idea of, I was too young to really go to any raves, but I could pick up pirate radio from my bedroom when I lived in West London.
Yep.
And it was like a sort of secret hidden world, These people that were using the same streets that I used, but differently, seeing the world through a different set of eyes, a different lens. I see a car park out the back of Tesco's, they see an opportunity to get 20,000 people in there or whatever, and get a sound system for as long as they can on a bank holiday weekend before they get shut down.
Yeah, and the police arrive and close them down.
It's the same for when you're doing street art or graffiti, like you're looking at the world in a different way. I'm, looking at, okay, maybe I could stand on that and reach up there and reach that bit there. And skaters are the same. Like you step off a curb, but they might look at it and go, I wonder if I can carve along there and flip. It's just a different creative way of looking at the same world. That comes with hustling. You've got to be creative. You've got to see opportunities in things where they might not exist. When we first started doing these shows with my crew, Finders Keepers, we literally had no other choice. We would make PDFs and send them to galleries, but they just didn't care.
Yeah.
The whole street art thing hadn't blown up.
Yep.
We didn't really have any agenda as such, but we used to just do these crazy shows. We'd find a disused shop front in East London or whatever that had been derelict for years, and we'd assemble a group of artists together, and we'd all collect trash. So, old pizza boxes, bits of wood, stuff that we find in the street. And we'd decorate it, we'd take it home, paint on it, and then we'd go and nail it up and have a street party. And at the end, we'd give it all away for free.
Great.
Some of the artists that have been involved in that, the London Police, D-Face, Miss Van, Adam Neat. I actually saw one of Adam Neat's wardrobe panels that he'd painted go at Christie's for like silly money.
Wow.
Some of these guys have gone on to unimaginable success.
Yeah.
But we all came from the same place.
Yeah.
Adam Neat was leaving work on the streets for free for years, but years before we started doing it. So I guess from there, it was just literally from necessity, and it's never been the easy way of doing it, but it's starting to work. I think the whole point of doing work on the street is that it interrupts the everyday. It's surprising. You turn a corner, you see a piece that wasn't there the day before. You're surprised. And I want people to feel that when they come to my shows. I want to have that interruption.
Well, what about going to somebody's house and there's a piece, or you walk into an office and behind the reception desk is a huge piece of yours? What does that do for you? Because that's taking it to another level, isn't it? And you've actually made money out of it as well.
Yeah, look, it's great having my work in different places because it's great having it acknowledged and celebrated. Of course, that's what I want. I want as many people to see my work as possible. And I used to do that by getting up on the street, and now I do it through selling paintings to people and, doing things like this and try to spread the word about what I'm doing. I love, I love having paintings in, nice places. A lot of my buyers message me on Instagram and show me pieces in their new homes.
Fantastic.
And I love that.
Yep.
I really like it when people connect with my work.
Yep.
And by having it in their home, that's the ultimate compliment.
I went to an exhibition of yours just recently, which we'll start talking about in a minute, and a friend of mine bought a couple of the pieces, and her comment was, "This guy is on the rise. I feel he's going somewhere, so I want to get in on ground level." And I went, smart. That must be exciting when you hear something like that back.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
That is really great to hear. And obviously that's what I want. Why shouldn't artists want that? I did come from a very underground place, and I still want to have some elements of, being underground within my work in the way that I choose to exhibit it. But of course I want success as a painter. I would love that. And, the other thing is, I also feel like I really owe it to my early collectors. I hope that my work doesn't get flipped regularly on the secondary market, but I'd like my early buyers to feel happy that they supported me when my work was really, really cheap.
Yeah.
And that they've got a little investment for themselves right there if they need it. As an artist, I swap a lot of work. I've ended up with a really great art collection, just from swapping with friends.
Wow.
Some of those guys have gone on, to become huge. And, the collection's probably worth quite a bit now, but it's not about selling it, but I do feel pride, that I see them succeeding. And I'd love it if people felt the same about me.
Your name, Mysterious Al, obviously your first name's Al.
Yeah.
Mysterious, why? That very much is a street artist's name. Is that where it comes from?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say it's a street artist's name and not a graffiti artist's name, because it really, really is. It's terrible for writing on the street. It's too long. It's hard to spell. If you see it as one word without any spaces in it, it doesn't really look like it says anything. It's a name that I picked really, really early on. I wanted to be, I wanted to be Notorious Al, like the Notorious B.I.G., but that was too cheesy.
Yeah.
So Mysterious kind of stuck.
Yeah.
And I like it now. The irony is I'm not actually very mysterious.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I talk about a lot of stuff. But yeah, I have had a few people recently say to me, look, if you're ready to go to the next level with your art, is it time to start using your real name?
I disagree with that.
I disagree completely.
Yeah. No, don't.
No, not at all.
Do you know what? That's one of the things that drew me to you. When I first saw a media release, I thought to myself, oh, what's this?
That's great.
And that's what I liked. You had an exhibition that I came along to called Spook House. What was that all about, and why was it called Spook House?
Okay, so Spook House was a two-part exhibition, with the first part being inside a working fairground ghost train.
Awesome. It was brilliant going on that little ghost train ride, and you painted all the art inside, all the spooky art inside.
That's right. So there were two very separate parts to the show, as you know. The first was, we got a ghost train. I got it from a guy in Queensland. I repainted the entire ride and remade all the props and scares that went inside in a traditional style. So, I looked into the history of ghost trains in the past, and I made the pieces out of paper mache and chicken wire, but also, I learned kind of crude animatronics, so that they moved and spoke, and their mouths opened and their eyes moved and things like that. So that was how I spent my lockdown. And it was great. I'd always, there are many different reasons why I decided to, why I've always wanted to do a ghost train show. The first is because that is something that's also got a dark underbelly to it. And so it felt like the perfect parallel to my work, the perfect metaphor.
Yeah.
My work's bright and colourful with something a little bit darker behind it.
Yeah.
A fairground ghost train, it's got a kitsch, bright exterior, but there's something, there's a fear of the unexpected there,
But it's also clever marketing ploy, isn't it? And that's sort of your background, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like I feel like marketing feels like not a dirty word, but a bit of a sort of dishonest kind of way of saying it.
In the art world?
Well, marketing, obviously marketing yourself is important, and doing something different is a good way to market yourself. But what I really wanted to do with Spook House is give people a completely unique experience that they'd never had before, and view art in a way that they'd never experienced it before. If that's marketing, then that's what I was doing.
Yeah, and do you know what? I get annoyed when artists go, oh, I can't be too commercial, I can't be this, can't be that. Ah, fuck it. Yeah, of course you can be. You know, like, and look at your imagery. You know, it's happy, it's bright, it's fun. Oh, those big spooky eyes. Spook House, you know, like, and the train. Of course, do it. You know, like, sell your soul. You know, like, because and have fun with it. And what the lovely thing about it is, the people couldn't wait to go on that train ride. They were, you know, like, and everyone spoke about it after they went on the ride. So
it was mega positive. And you know, the best thing was, you know, the amount of kids that came through and loved it.
Yep.
You know, because I love that children like my work. You know, they see stuff in it that I don't. You know, they'd point at the pieces and say, that looks like a dog, that looks like a fish, and I'd just be like secretly writing it all down. But yeah.
So you don't see that?
Look, I deliberately make my work open to interpretation.
Okay.
You know, because the best way for somebody to connect with the work is to see something in it, you know, and feel like they see something in it that nobody else sees.
Yeah.
So I'm deliberately very vague with what my things are. Sometimes I might think it looks like too much like an animal, and so like I'll tear a bit off or paint it a different colour. But really, the collages that I do are influenced by each other, you know, because they're the things that I'm looking at all the time. So really, you'll kind of see trends within them of like maybe a bunch of them have spiky ears, maybe a bunch of them have two noses, you know, things like that. It'll be like one informs the next one and the next one and the next one.
And the second part of Spook House was, of course, the exhibition. And it was all in a huge warehouse. And it was presented really well, very open. And you know, like you could have sort of made it smaller area, but it was very spacious. The way is that on purpose?
Yeah, definitely. You know, the way that the work's lit is really, really important to me. The way it's hung, the way it's displayed. You know, I wanted to try and control absolutely everything.
Are you a control freak?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Are you?
It's starting to seem that way, yeah. I've only realised this since I've been working with other people.
Okay.
You know, there are about 40 or 50 people involved in Spook House.
Yeah.
And, you know, before this point, it's always just been me, and I have one other guy that I work with, a friend of mine. You know, it's just been the two of us, so it has been difficult, you know, letting other people do things, but there's no way I could have done it by myself.
Yep.
You know, there are people that are way, way, way better at other parts of it than I am. And so I've just got to trust them and let them run with it.
So I interrupted you, Miola. You were talking about the lighting and the space in between.
Yeah, you know, it's just, you've just got to think about how the collection of work's going to work together, you know, and present it in such a way that it makes sense like that, you know. I work on the paintings in groups. So, you know, they needed to be on separate walls, all the different collections. You know, I also really like warehouse spaces because they're places that nobody has done an art show before, and I really like that. That's kind of true to my roots. It's also cool because people might have walked past that warehouse 100 times. You know, they've never given it a second look until I open the doors and there's a ghost train in there, you know. So that's really nice as well. A lot of the time people are just as interested by the space as they are by the work.
What's next? You know, like, have you got any ideas on the boil? You know, is there, or are you a sort of an artist that you've then got to take a break because you put so much time and effort into getting the exhibition up, because it's more than an exhibition. It's what do you actually call it? Is it an installation when, you know, like you're throwing in a ghost train as well?
I call it an experience, you know, because I think it is more than a traditional exhibition. You know, it's interactive. You know, it's open for interpretation.
And there was a little booth there as well that you could get your photo taken.
Having a show Instagrammable is very important these days.
Yep.
Like you know, I need as many people as possible to see my work, and if that means giving people a good opportunity to share their little selfies, it's a great way to get people buzzed about the show.
Yeah.
I've actually been working on some new paintings in a slightly different style. I've been working on them privately for like the last year or so. They're not ready to come out. Look,
if you don't want to.
No, I don't want to.
You don't want to.
You know, I like a lot of different painters. You know, I'm an art fan before I think I'm an artist. And you know, there's a lot of people that are inspiring me doing really, really amazing stuff. And you know, I'm starting to kind of look at that a little bit within my own work.
And are you talking about in the like street art world, or are you talking beyond street art?
Oh no, you know, to be quite honest with you, I don't really pay much attention to street art anymore.
Okay.
You know, I do still paint on the street very occasionally, but you know, I feel that that scene's kind of really changed since I was kind of more active in it. You know, I think it's definitely kind of a younger crowd now, and it's.
Oh, you're the old man of.
I do feel like it. You know, I feel like we've all sort of moved on to kind of other things now.
And which, you know, like a true artist moves on, don't they?
Yeah,
all the greats do.
I still love painting big murals.
Yep.
You know, but really and truly, the kind of walls that I want to paint these days, I can't do on the street. You know, I can't do illegally. You know, I need to be given the wall. I need to be given the permission to do it. I need the materials to do it. You know, I like to own a whole wall. You know, I don't like to just share, like have my little section, you know, with 20 other artists.
Yep.
I feel that my work is impactful most when it's on its own. You know, when you turn a corner and see the complete piece. You know, I feel like that's how my work really sings rather than doing stuff on the street. And because of that, I haven't really been paying much attention to street, you know, the kind of current street artists, I guess.
Is there one thing you would like to achieve as an artist before you retire as an artist? Now, I know you're only quite young, but is there a goal somewhere out there for you?
I think the goal is to never retire.
Okay.
Because I want to be doing this forever.
Yeah.
You know, and that is the goal. You know, the goal is to be able to make art every day. It's like.
And do you paint every day?
Most days.
Do you, or ripping bits of paper up every day?
Yeah, absolutely. In some form or another, I'll be in the studio, and when I'm not, I'm thinking about art constantly, or looking at other art.
Yeah.
You know, one of the hardest bits of the exhibition is, you know, the paintings are finished for months, and I'm looking at a spreadsheet or up a ladder, or you know, going to interstate to like look at something that I need to get, or contacting suppliers, or doing all the other kind of boring non-art stuff. You know, if I could be in a studio painting every day, I would be.
Yeah. Serious Al, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
It was a pleasure having you. So, Mysterious Al, you're going to be a major player in the world.
Thanks very much.
Thank you for watching. You've been watching The Art Hunter. See ya.